Hey guys, it's Darwin, and it's been like, what, 2 months since we've done a Q&A, so let's answer some of your questions. Alright, so now that I'm back from my mini through hike of the Timberline Trail with my wife Snuggles, and shooting over to Cascade Locks, Oregon for PCT Days 2019. By the way, thanks for saying hi if you guys were out there. It's time to answer some of your pressing questions that I've kind of neglected for the past 2 months. Sorry, I've been busy. So for this Q&A, like most of my Q&As, I pulled everybody over on the community tab. If you're not getting a notification that I'm asking for questions, all you got to do is go up next to the subscribe button, click that little notification bell, and then the next time I do a Q&A, you'll get notified to put your question over there. Now that I said, I think, the word question about 10 times, let's answer some of yours. Roughly speaking, how much consideration do you give or pay attention to nutrition for your hikes? So last year when I hopped off the PCT, I made a video called Food on the PCT. I'll put it up here if you guys want to check that out. But when I made that video, I talked about all the different bars and all the different food that I was eating while I was doing my thru hike, and I got a lot of weird mixed comments, people saying that I was eating crap, and that's not necessarily true. Whenever I did the AT in 15 and 16, I ate a ton of crap. A lot of stuff that normal, typical thru hikers eat, which is like Snickers and ramen and instant mashed potatoes, Pop-Tarts. Man, I ate a ton of Pop-Tarts on the AT. And in the last couple years, starting really on the PCT, I've really tried to watch my nutrition. Now, even though I'm eating bars and prepackaged food, I really try to watch the nutrition that's in that food. So when I go to select a bar, instead of picking up a Snickers bar, I try to find some sort of a protein bar that's low sugar, high fat, high protein. In the last 2 years, I've really tried to switch my trail diet from high carbs, high sugar, which is what most thru hikers do, to high fat, high protein. You burn fat much longer than you burn something like sugar or carbs. One of my favorite things that I've been eating recently on the trail, and it really started on the PCT, is this type of peanut butter or almond butter called trail butter. You'll see me eat it in a ton of my videos. I think in my Timberline video that I put out last week, I was eating a ton of it because it's super high fat and it allows me to burn that energy longer. Not to mention there's like 900 calories in one of those packs, which is pretty good for weight to calorie ratio. So in answer to your question, I do spend quite a bit of time thinking about my nutrition and what I'm actually getting. A lot of times when I get into a town, I'll try to eat as much good food as possible. I'll try to get some like green juices. I'll try to eat more fruits and vegetables. Now that's not to say that I'm still not enjoying pizza and beer, but I try to get that nutrition in where I can. So coming off that question, is it possible to thru hike the PCT without doing drop boxes for resupply? Can you get by on resupplying in PCT hiker town stores? So yes, you can totally do the entire PCT without sending yourself a resupply, with one exception, and that would be Stehekin in Washington. For most hikers, that is their last resupply point before you get to the Canadian border. Now, could you resupply in that little store in Stehekin? Sure, but they don't really have much. It's mainly chips and snack cakes, and on top of that, it's super expensive. So I would suggest sending yourself a resupply box to Stehekin, but really the rest of the trail, you can go to convenience stores, you can go to grocery stores, little hiker town stores. But the caveat to that is what we're talking about in the last question, and that is nutrition. So if you're worried about nutrition, if you're trying to get in better calories, if you have some sort of a special diet, say you're a vegan, say that you are sugar-free, you're diabetic, with that, you're gonna have to send yourself resupply boxes, obviously. Because in the grand scheme of things, on the AT, the PCT, the Arizona Trail, yeah, you can totally resupply the entire way without sending yourself a box, but your resupply options are kind of limited to stuff that you're going to find in typical convenience stores and every once in a while in a good grocery store. So just something to keep in mind, but like I said, I would suggest sending a box to Stehekin. What do you use to mount your camera to your shoulder strap? I've been getting a ton of questions about the thing that is up here on my shoulder strap that my camera's been on. If you guys watched my Timberline video, you'll notice it a lot in that. A lot of my Instagram photos, my camera's been up here, and I don't know why I haven't talked about that cool piece of gear yet. If you're a camera nerd, you need to get the Peak Designs capture clip. It's been around for quite some time, and essentially what it is, it's like a holster for your camera. So there's a little thing that you attach to your shoulder strap that permanently stays there, and then there's a plate that goes on the bottom of your camera so it slides in place and locks there. So it actually clips, and then once it's clipped, you can turn this little dial which locks the plate in place so it doesn't shoot out and you drop your expensive camera, and then when you're ready to take your shot, you unlock it, you push the button, you pull it off, take your shot, slide it back. Super cool, super convenient. I'll put a link down below if you guys want to check one of those out. But if you're like me and you're wanting to carry a bigger camera with bigger lenses and you're backpacking or through hiking, I highly suggest getting one. I'm 47 years old and I have 6 more years until I punch out of the workforce. Myself and friends plan on doing the PCT while in our 50s. Do you see many people over 50 on the trail? Oh yeah. I think that there is this misconception about thru hikers being young and vibrant and fresh out of college, and that's not true. Now, I've referenced him a lot in the past, but in 2015, I hiked about 1,300 miles with a 62-year-old man from Virginia named Rube. And most days, I had a hard time keeping up with him. I've seen thru hikers from their 40s to their 50s to their 60s to even in their 70s out on trails like the AT, the PCT, even the Arizona Trail this year. Now, are the majority of thru hikers probably young and in their 20s? I'm sure that they are, but it doesn't mean anything. Age is all in how you feel in here and how you feel in here. So 50 years young sounds like a perfect time to do your first thru hike. Would you consider using your new Plexamid pocket tarp for a full thru hike of something like the AT or PCT without using an inner bug net? I've given that a lot of thought lately, and to anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, recently I picked up a new shelter from Z-Packs called the Hexamid Pocket Tarp. Now essentially what it is it's just a tarp with doors and it has a bathtub but no netting. And I recently took it out on my mini thru hike of the Timberline Trail. Now granted, I was only out there for 3 days and there wasn't really any bugs, so I've been thinking about that quite a bit. If I was going to go back out and do the PCT, would I take it? I know some people that do tarp on the PCT, but man, last year when I was in Washington and when I was in Oregon, the mosquitoes were horrendous. And I guess that you could close it up and you could throw a bug net over your head, but I really wouldn't want to sleep with a bug net on my face. I feel like I'd suffocate to death. So that is something I've given quite a bit of thought. Now, I think on the Arizona Trail, where I'm basically at right now, yeah, you could totally get away with it because bugs aren't that bad here. And then on the AT, I think it really depends on the season. I don't remember seeing a mosquito from Georgia all the way to basically the middle of Virginia, and that's when the bugs got bad. So I don't know. I'll see what happens over the next year. I'm going to be using that on a lot of trips, not only on backpacking and hiking trips, but also on a bunch of bikepacking trips here around Arizona. So we'll see what happens in the future. What's in store for Darwin next? So I recently made a video called New Gear, New Hikes, where I kind of talked about what I was going to be doing next. And I just got back from the Timberline Trail. I'm going to be doing a few small section hikes back out on the Arizona Trail, basically to work on the film. So I'm still working on my Arizona Trail film basically until the end of October. Right now I'm waiting for all the southbounders to start their hike so I can go out and film them. And then I have a couple more interviews to do, and then in November I'll start the editing process, and I hope to have something for you guys by the beginning of the year. I'm pretty excited about it. I've been scrubbing through a lot of footage, starting to put some of that together and build my story, and I'm so excited to bring you guys along on that journey and that story that I've basically spent all year making. But aside from that, I'm actually going to be switching gears. So last year in October, I stopped hiking and backpacking and I started doing some bike touring. If you guys remember watching my video of when Snuggles and I did a bike tour of the Blue Ridge Parkway, I'm thinking about doing some more bikepacking and bike touring content. Now, if that's something that you guys would be interested in, If you want to see me talk more about bike packing, adventure cycling as it were, basically it's hiking just on a bike and you can move faster and get more miles, leave me something down below if that's something that you're interested in. Aside from that, I'm basically just going to be getting out, doing small trips here and there, and then next year, starting in March, I'm going to be heading back out to the AT to do a 500 to 700 mile section hike starting from Springer on the day that I started in 2015, and basically just hiking 500 to 700 miles really to celebrate and honor my 5-year anniversary of being a hiker trash and being in this community that I love so much. So I'm pretty excited about that. After that, probably headed back out to the PCT for a small section, and then in July, I have a pretty awesome thru hike planned that I'm not ready to spoil for you guys yet. So that is what is next for Darwin. What is the first piece of gear you should try to lighten up first? So if we're talking about the 3 major pieces of gear, so backpack, shelter, and sleep system, every single time if I had to make a suggestion on what to lighten up first, if you could only pick one, would be the shelter. So first off, it's probably where you're going to get your biggest weight savings, right? So say you're using a Big Agnes tent that weighs about 3 pounds. Well, switching that to something like a tent that I use, which is the Z-Pack's Plexamed, which is 16 ounces, I mean, you're shaving off 2 pounds on your base weight. With packs and sleep systems, you're probably not going to get that much weight savings for the money, so it really comes down to your budget and what you can afford. The other reason why I would switch a shelter is because chances are you can use a shelter, whether it's a Z-Pack's Plexamed or the Big Agnes tent, in basically every season. You can use it in the summer, you can use it in the fall, you can use it in the winter and the spring, versus something like a sleep system. Sometimes I use different quilts for different seasons. So if it's colder outside, I'm going to take a lower rated quilt. And if it is warmer outside, I might use a sleeping pad that has a lower R value. So for me, those things change all the time. Same with a pack. Depending on what type of hike that I'm going to do, if I'm doing a hike where I need more gear and I'm going to be carrying heavier weight, I need a larger pack. If I'm doing something that's really fast and minimal, I need a smaller pack. So I'm going to switch those things out, but my shelter system typically stays the same. So in answer to your question, I would suggest going for your shelter first because it's going to be your biggest weight savings and you're probably going to use that more than you're going to use anything. Did you run into Second Chance? Well, I didn't really run into him, but I did meet him out at PCT days, and we actually did a collaboration video together that won't be on my channel, it'll be over on his, so stay tuned for that. Here's a quick little sneak peek of me and Second Chance hanging out. And now you're doing stuff to inspire other people, and 80 videos in, like, wow, like 80 videos in, you're not even done with your first trail, and you're 80 videos in, which is insane. That's 80 pieces of inspiration, like 80 little chunks of inspiration to throw out into the world to grab everybody in and like help change their life and help them then pay it forward. And that's so amazing, dude. Like,
thank you so much for everything.
Dude,
I feel like we have to hug now.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah. How do you pick the perfect campsite each day? So I've been getting that question a lot too. I think it's just like anybody. Whenever I am kind of looking around for a spot, I look for something nice and soft. Don't want a lot of rocks and crap in the way because I don't want to puncture the bathtub of my tent. But I'll typically look for a nice pine bed, some nice pine needles, maybe a nice leaf bed, some soft grass, so I can make sure that, again, nothing's going to puncture the bottom of my tent, pop my pad. And I also make sure that there's no dead trees around me, like the giant one behind me, so I wouldn't camp here. And then yeah, I just pitch a tent. No real secret, I just look for a nice level spot with not a lot of obstructions and nothing that is going to fall in the middle of the night and kill me. All right guys, last question of this Q&A, and it's not really a question, it's more of a statement, and that is tattoo stories. Yeah. I have quite a handful of tattoos on my legs, on my arms, some that you can't see on my back and my shoulders, and I get questions all the time, people wanting to know the stories behind my tattoos. Now, I won't go into all of them in this video because that would be a super long video, but I figured I would pick out a couple and give you the story behind my ink. The number one tattoo that I probably get the most questions about is this violin on my arm. It is a violin. It's not a cello, it's not a fiddle. It's a violin, and the reason that I have this tattoo is for my grandmother. So my grandma was a big part of my life, probably one of my, this kind of sounds mean, probably my favorite family member that I have in either side of my family, and she passed away about 1.5 years before I went out to do the AT. Now, a lot of times when through hikers go out on their first trail, especially on the AT, it's kind of tradition, you bring a token with you, and you want to carry something all the way from the beginning to the end. I didn't really want to carry anything, and I'd been wanting to get a memorial for my grandmother for quite a while, so I actually got this done a little bit before I went to hike the AT, and this was my totem that I carried for the entire length of the trail. And it's cool because now I can carry it on every trail with me. And as far as the rose and the little symbol down here, she was actually a rifle marksman when she was a young girl, so that's why that's on there. I always thought that was a cool fact about her. And her favorite rose was the yellow rose, so that's why that's on there. So yeah, that tattoo is a tribute and a memorial for my grandmother. And let's see, another good tattoo to talk about would probably be the second one that people ask about, and that is this guy. This is actually an outline, and obviously an outline, a line drawing of a section of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So growing up in Indiana, there's no mountains out there, and when I really fell in love with the mountains, that was in the Smokies and the Blue Ridge, and there was a certain photo that I took back in probably 2012 of a certain section of the Blue Ridge, and it was on my fridge for years. I dreamed about going back all the time. So there was a certain time where I actually took that photo into my friend, and he took tracing paper and he outlined the mountains, and then we tattooed it right there on my forearm. And recently I've actually added a little part to it that says create, as a reminder every day that I'm a creator. You know, whether it's videos or it's photos or making a film, I love the idea that human beings are just creators, and we create things for each other to inspire each other. So a little reminder. So you got a twofer on that one. And then the last tattoo that I'll talk about, well, it's probably one that sticks out in most of my videos, and that is the Smokey the Bear tattoo and the National Park emblem tattoo that are on my quad. I am a massive supporter of the Forest Service and the Park Service. Being an American, the thing that I'm the most patriotic about is the Park Service and the National Forest Service. I think it's amazing that as a country, as a people, we pay our taxes to be able to conserve and protect our natural resources so we can come out here and enjoy them. I'm in a national forest right now. Grand Canyon National Park is right up the street, and I spend a ton of time in both, so I wanted to honor those things the best that I could, and I always honor the things the best that I know by permanently putting them on my body. So that is what is with my Smokey the Bear and my National Park emblem. All right, guys, thanks for the awesome questions this month. We'll do it again next month. Hopefully I answered as much as I could for everybody. And if you want to ask a question for next month's Q&A, just go hit that little notification bell, and then when I do that post, you'll be able to ask your question there. A real quick plug, we've been doing a ton of articles on my website, theoutdoorevolution.com. And recently, if they're still available, we released a limited number of hats. We did 70 hats, and after those sell out, we're going to be doing a pre-sale for more of the Outdoor Evolution hats. But aside from the hat, we've been posting a ton of new articles. So if you haven't checked out the website yet, I'll put that up here, and I'll put a link down below. Go over, check out those articles that we've been posting. We're going to be doing a ton on the website and promoting the crap out of it in the next handful of months in lead up for the film's release. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, guys, thanks for watching.